The story starts at the sunlit classroom on the 5th of May, where a teacher asks a student to perform a translation. A graceful girl with long, fair hair named Kurumi confidently stands up from her desk, ready to begin. She proceeds to translate a peculiar and dramatic passage about a man dancing without clothes in his room just as his mother is about to return home. While she recites the strange text, a studious-looking boy with glasses named Fujimori watches her with absolute awe, thinking to himself how cool and amazing his idol Kurumi is. The rest of the class is also impressed, noting her dignified and composed demeanor as she remains perfectly expressionless despite being the center of everyone's attention. After class, a group of female students flocks to Kurumi's desk, praising her incredible pronunciation and eagerly asking her to teach them. Kurumi politely explains that she has to go home for the day but promises to help them all tomorrow. From a short distance away, Fujimori is filled with excitement, also wishing he could learn from her. As the students buzz with anticipation for the next day's study session, Fujimori gathers his courage and shyly asks if he can join them, admitting that he is not very good with English. His hopeful question is met with an awkward silence as the girls simply turn and give him blank, uninterested stares. The sudden focus of attention causes Fujimori to freeze up as he reflects on his own personality. He sees himself as a plain guy who doesn't stand out, someone whose name is easily forgotten, and he feels he just crumbles under the pressure of being noticed. He looks down, feeling that he is the complete opposite of the self-assured Kurumi, a person he deeply admires for possessing all the confidence he lacks. His mind drifts back to the school's entrance ceremony, the very first time he saw her. He remembers being captivated as she stood on stage in front of the entire school to deliver a speech, her posture dignified and her voice unwavering, showing no sign of nervousness at all. Back in the present, Fujimori glances at a keychain of his favorite anime character, Sumiton, thinking how much Kurumi resembles her. He quickly conceals the keychain, worried that if anyone saw it, they would think he was a weirdo. Later, Kurumi bids farewell to her friends, mentioning she has to be somewhere and is heading home. As she walks away, Fujimori watches her go, dreaming that one day he might be as confident as she is. At his locker, Fujimori is shocked to find that his PE clothes are missing. He initially worries he left them in the locker room but then recalls throwing away some trash after PE, and a dreadful feeling washes over him that he may have thrown them out by mistake. He frantically searches through the garbage area but finds nothing. Feeling defeated and knowing he will probably get scolded, he gives up and decides to head home. While walking, he sees Kurumi up ahead and is once again mesmerized by how beautiful and sparkling she looks even when just walking. He feels this is his perfect chance to finally talk to her. However, his plan is derailed when he accidentally bumps into some other classmates. They ask if he's okay, and one of them recognizes him as a guy from their class but can't remember his name and asks him what it is. For a moment, Fujimori is stunned that a classmate is actually asking for his name. Flustered and overwhelmed, he stammers before saying that his name doesn't matter. His classmates find this hilarious and burst out laughing, calling him a gloomy introvert and mocking the idea that anyone would want to know his name. The cruel words reinforce his feelings of being an outcast. He feels completely dejected, believing he has no confidence and always messes things up. He watches Kurumi disappear into the distance, convinced that the person he looks up to doesn't even know he exists. This triggers a flood of painful memories of being isolated his whole life, from being excluded from games as a child to being left out of class events, all because he was perceived as quiet and gloomy. Just as he is crouched on the ground, lost in his despair, a soft voice says, "Hey," and he looks up to find Kurumi standing right there, holding a tote bag. Fujimori is in utter shock as Kurumi, with a gentle smile, presents him with a new PE uniform. She explains that she heard him say he lost his and happened to find a brand new set at a local shop that the owner had opened by mistake, so she got it for him. Overjoyed by her kindness, Fujimori's spirits soar. He can't believe she's talking to him so much, and in a rush of emotion, he tells her he's falling for her and asks if they can walk home together. His happy moment is shattered when another student walks up, laughs, and asks Kurumi who this guy is. To Fujimori's absolute horror, Kurumi looks at him with a blank expression and asks, "Who are you?" The other students erupt in laughter, calling him lame. As a crushed Fujimori tells them to shut up, Kurumi simply turns and walks away. This humiliating experience sends him back into a memory of the entrance ceremony. He recalls watching Kurumi on stage, captivated by her commanding presence that drew the eyes of everyone in the hall, a quality he had always dreamed of possessing. He contrasts her radiance with his own plain and unremarkable self. Snapping back to the present, he finds the resolve to speak. He tells Kurumi that meeting her that day made him want to change, that he wants to become a better person so he can get closer to her, and he thanks her for inspiring him. Hearing his heartfelt words, Kurumi turns back, her long hair sweeping gracefully. A small smile touches her lips as she says, "You're welcome, Fujimori-kun," finally saying his name. The scene then shifts dramatically. Kurumi arrives home, humming happily as she enters her messy apartment. When she flips on the light, the room is revealed to be an elaborate shrine dedicated entirely to Fujimori, its walls covered with his photos. She gazes at the pictures lovingly, thinking that he was at his best today. At her desk, she meticulously writes in a notebook titled, "Fujimori-kun Memo," documenting everything she learned about him that day. His gym uniform is a size M, his shoes are size 26 centimeters, he isn't good at English, and he keeps a Tsumitan acrylic keychain in his locker. She clutches his PE uniform to her face, reflecting on how happy she is to have finally spoken to him, but she knows she must be careful not to reveal her true, obsessive nature. A memory surfaces of a younger Fujimori enjoying the same character, Tsumitan, and she is filled with joy, knowing that the boy she likes so much still has the same interests after all these years, a secret she has cherished all along. Flashes back to a time when Kurumi's classmates saw her as a loner, with one girl wondering if she should invite the solitary Kurumi to her group project, while others commented on how she had changed from the person they used to know. The scene then opens in the present day, inside a quiet bedroom where an alarm clock is ringing insistently beside a drawn curtain. A tired Kurumi wakes from a bad dream, finding herself in bed wearing a gym shirt with the name Fujimori on it, surrounded by large, soft, white plush figures. The story shifts to the school classroom, where Fujimori is happily lost in thought at his desk. He fondly recalls the previous day when he managed to speak with his idol, Kurumi, for about 2 whole minutes, even sharing a small detail about getting a high score in a game. He is so overjoyed that his face seems to glow, and he clasps his hands together in delight. His cheerful and shiny appearance is so unusual that another student greets him and asks what has him in such a good mood, as Fujimori relives the bliss of their 2-minute and 10-second conversation, feeling determined that he must speak to her again today. Just then, Kurumi enters the classroom, looking as beautiful and cool as ever, and Fujimori's heart leaps. He tells himself to focus and muster the courage to talk to her, but his attempt to say her name is drowned out by a wave of popular girls who swarm around Kurumi, all greeting her cheerfully at once. Fujimori is left standing awkwardly in the background, his confidence instantly crushed as he realizes his mission was impossible and scolds himself for being overconfident. While Kurumi is surrounded by her friends, she subtly adjusts a hidden earbud, as a dejected Fujimori slumps back into his seat alone. It is then revealed that Kurumi is secretly listening to a recording on her phone. The audio is of Fujimori from the day before, thanking her for the gym clothes. She is ecstatic that she captured his voice for 2 minutes and 18 seconds and craves the chance to record even more. Later, a classmate named Yamamura approaches Fujimori and asks if he has a crush on Kurumi. Fujimori becomes flustered and insists that he simply admires her deeply because she's his perfect ideal. That night, Fujimori lies in bed sighing, thinking that the popular Kurumi was a bit different from what he had imagined, but he renews his resolve to successfully greet her the next morning. The following day after school, a classmate asks Kurumi to lock up the classroom because the student on duty is absent, and she coolly agrees. As she watches her classmates leave, she silently vows to perfectly maintain her image as the cool Kurumi that everyone wants her to be, without making a single mistake. Her thoughts drift to a memory from the past, where a younger Fujimori sat alone on a bench and a young girl offered him a small gift. Kurumi reflects that ever since that day, she has dedicated herself to becoming his ideal type. Meanwhile, in the now empty classroom, Fujimori is busy practicing different ways to greet Kurumi. He tries a simple good morning but feels it's too basic, then experiments with a more casual morning, and an overly enthusiastic, hey, good morning sunshine. Yamamura walks in on this peculiar practice session and asks what he's doing. Fujimori explains his theory that a unique greeting might make him more memorable and interesting, though Yamamura seems to doubt if it's worth the effort. Later, as Yamamura and another friend are leaving, they call for Fujimori to join them, but he tells them to wait and quickly hides inside a classroom locker, closing the door just as his friends finalize their plans to meet in front of the station at 10 on Sunday. Unbeknownst to them, Kurumi is standing just outside the classroom door, secretly recording their entire conversation with her phone. A look of pure bliss washes over her face as she listens to the recording, especially the part where she can hear Fujimori's voice. Later, lying on her bed in her room which is completely covered in photos of Fujimori, she listens to his practice greetings. She fantasizes about how she would respond to each one, deciding a simple greeting would earn a polite, "Good morning Fujimori-kun," while a cool, "Yo, morning," would get a playful, "You're funny, Fujimori-kun," in return. She clutches a piece of his clothing to her face, completely overcome with adoration. Back at school, Yamamura, seeing how serious Fujimori is about improving himself, offers to teach him how to get along with girls, an offer Fujimori accepts with explosive excitement. At the same time, Kurumi sits at her desk, a sly smile on her face as she listens to the recording of Fujimori's friends making their Sunday plans. She eagerly looks forward to the weekend, now knowing exactly where he will be. Fujimori and his classmate Yamamura standing outside the bustling Akihabara train station. Yamamura, with a smug and confident expression, boasts that women are incredibly easy to win over, claiming that 10 different girls confessed their love to him just the day before. Fujimori is completely blown away by this, his eyes wide with amazement as he exclaims in disbelief. Yamamura then generously offers to teach his impressionable friend some of his tips, handing him what looks like a guidebook. A hopeful Fujimori, wondering if even a shy person like him could find such success, gratefully accepts the book. The scene then reveals that the boys are not alone, as Kurumi is secretly following them in a giant, fluffy cat mascot costume, complete with a shopping basket, vowing to herself that this mission will be no sweat. Later, Fujimori is seen happily carrying shopping bags filled with the new books he bought, thanking Yamamura profusely and admitting that this is his first time ever hanging out with a friend and going to a cafe. While Fujimori is having this milestone experience, Yamamura casually checks his phone, mentioning that his many girls are probably upset that he hasn't texted them back. Eager to learn the secrets to this popularity, Fujimori asks his friend to share more of his wisdom. Sitting together in the cafe, Fujimori wistfully wonders if he could ever become friends with his idol, Kurumi. Yamamura confidently declares that it's an easy task and shows Fujimori his phone as proof. He explains that he simply posts on social media, revealing a screen full of spam-like messages from various women offering him money or begging for a date, which he passes off as genuine confessions. Unseen by them, Kurumi is sitting at a nearby table disguised in a dark hoodie, secretly listening to their entire conversation through a hidden earbud. Yamamura then dramatically reveals his ultimate strategy for winning a woman's heart, which is to simply show off one's skills. He advises Fujimori to passionately talk about something he is very good at directly in front of the girl, assuring him that this will make everything go perfectly. Fujimori is completely mesmerized by this advice and eagerly begins to write it all down in a notebook. Yamamura adds that showing a surprising gap that contrasts with one's usual personality is also a highly effective technique. As Fujimori puzzles over what he is good at, he considers his gaming hobby, but Yamamura dismisses it, saying it doesn't create any gap at all. From her listening post, Kurumi is intensely focused on their conversation, absorbing every detail about Fujimori's potential favorites. Their session is suddenly interrupted when 2 loud and flashy boys from their class spot Kurumi sitting alone. They swagger over to her table, greeting her loudly and commenting on how cool it is that she's at a cafe by herself. Fujimori is instantly intimidated, recognizing them as some of the scarier students in his class. One of the boys continues to talk obnoxiously, complaining about a quiet, introverted person he encountered at karaoke earlier and how draining it is to be around such buzzkills. He invites Kurumi to go shopping with them, but she quietly declines. Hearing this, Fujimori's heart sinks. The boy's harsh words about introverts make him believe that Kurumi would surely hate it if someone like him tried to talk to her, as it would only ruin her day off. His dream of becoming her friend now seems hopelessly out of reach. Feeling defeated, Fujimori abruptly stands up and tells Yamamura that they should leave, explaining that it would be annoying for Kurumi if he were to bother her. As they get up to go, the flashy boys notice them and question why they are leaving when Kurumi is right there. One of the boys continues to pester Kurumi to hang out, but his friend tells him to stop. Fujimori looks down at the advice he so carefully wrote in his notebook, feeling that he can't possibly show off his strengths without creating a terribly awkward situation for everyone. But just as the flashy boy is about to give up, Fujimori unexpectedly blurts out that he doesn't think what the boy is doing is okay. The boy spins around in surprise, aggressively confronting Fujimori and recognizing him as the gloomy introvert from their class. He menacingly demands to know what Fujimori meant, and though terrified, Fujimori shakily repeats his objection. Remembering Yamamura's advice at the last second, Fujimori suddenly and loudly declares that gaming is his hobby, shocking everyone in the cafe, including Kurumi. He then launches into a nervous but passionate rant about his skill in FPS games, complaining about how recent game updates are always disappointing. His speech becomes more and more intense as he argues that the developers should just nerf the overpowered weapons, even while admitting the games are still fun to play. The flashy boy is completely baffled by this sudden, geeky outburst, calling Fujimori creepy before his friend has finally had enough and drags him away. In the aftermath, a breathless Fujimori stands in the quiet cafe. Yamamura, realizing his advice may have been questionable, urges him to seize the moment, telling him this is his chance to talk to Kurumi and become her friend. Filled with a surge of courage, Fujimori walks over to Kurumi's table, extends a trembling hand, and shyly asks if she would like to be friends with him. Kurumi looks up at him, and a gentle smile spreads across her face. She takes his hand and softly thanks him, calling him by his name, Fujimori-kun, and adding that she was happy he spoke to her. Fujimori is overwhelmed with joy, barely able to stammer her name. But then, her expression shifts, and she apologizes before delivering the final blow. She does not want to be friends with him. The scene cuts to Kurumi's room, which is revealed to be the headquarters of an intense surveillance operation. A massive map on her wall tracks Fujimori's entire shopping trip, with notes detailing the books he bought, his first cafe visit with a friend, and his love for FPS games. She thinks to herself that in order to remain the person he admires, she cannot let him see her true, flawed self. With an expression of ecstatic agony, she reflects on what a happy day it was, realizing this is precisely why she can never get any closer to him. The story ends with Fujimori outside the station with Yamamura, agonizing over his rejection and wondering if things would have been different if he had talked about manga instead of games, while Yamamura simply observes that his friend is tougher than he looks. Lively classroom where the students are excitedly changing their seats. As the new arrangements are announced, both Fujimori and Kurumi stand up at the same time, a moment of shared surprise as they realize they are now deskmates. Fujimori is internally ecstatic, his mind racing with the possibility that this is his golden opportunity. Even though he failed to become her friend, he believes sitting next to his idol Kurumi is a chance to finally get along with her, and he struggles to calm his racing heart. In a moment of overwhelming and awkward enthusiasm, Fujimori performs an incredibly deep bow, nearly smacking his head on the desk as he loudly introduces himself to Kurumi, a girl who has been his classmate all year. The instant the words leave his mouth, he is flooded with immense regret, realizing he just made himself look like a complete stranger and feeling so embarrassed that he wishes he could disappear. Despite his mortification, Fujimori is still overjoyed just to be near Kurumi, and as he glances at her, he thinks she looks incredibly cool and attractive. He notices she is blushing intensely while trying to hide her face, which he misinterprets as just another cool and mysterious mannerism. The classroom buzzes with reactions to the new seating chart, and another student expresses jealousy over a friend's lucky spot by the window. This pleasant atmosphere is shattered when the same flashy boy who hassled Kurumi at the cafe approaches Fujimori's desk. The boy, who is now stuck in the undesirable seat in front of the teacher, aggressively demands that Fujimori switch places with him. He grabs Fujimori by the collar, reminding him of how he was embarrassed the other day and declaring that Fujimori owes him this favor as payback, even turning to Kurumi to ask for her opinion on the matter. Kurumi calmly interrupts their confrontation, stating that she doesn't want any arguments happening next to her and that they should hurry up if they plan to switch seats. She adds with a cool indifference that as long as the seat lottery was fair, she doesn't really care who sits beside her. The flashy boy takes this as his cue to ramp up the pressure on Fujimori, arguing that everyone would obviously prefer to sit next to someone fun and that having a boring guy like Fujimori as a deskmate would be a total disappointment for Kurumi. As the boy continues his verbal assault, Fujimori's spirit begins to crumble, and he starts to believe that Kurumi truly would be disappointed to be stuck with him. Looking utterly dejected, he is on the verge of giving in, not wanting to cause any more trouble for her. Just as he is about to surrender his seat, Kurumi suddenly speaks up. With a surprisingly emotional and tearful expression, her face flushed red, she declares that she is sorry but she doesn't want to give up her seat to anyone. Her unexpected outburst leaves the entire class in stunned silence, and even Kurumi herself seems confused by her own words as she looks down at her desk. The flashy boy, now angry and bewildered, turns on the other student he was supposed to switch with, demanding his ticket, only to find the student doesn't have one, throwing the situation into further chaos. In a stunning move, Kurumi reaches out and grabs the flashy boy's arm, firmly telling him to stop messing with Fujimori. She then turns to Fujimori with a brilliant, happy smile, apologizes for all the fuss, and suggests that they get along from now on. Fujimori is filled with pure bliss, but when he looks up to respond, he finds that Kurumi has vanished from her seat. The scene follows a panting Kurumi as she sprints down the school hallway and rushes into an empty bathroom stall, collapsing against the door to catch her breath. Alone in the stall, she clutches her chest, whispering to herself that she really doesn't want to give it up to anyone. It's revealed that she is talking about her new seat, number 18, the one right next to Fujimori, and she realizes that, just like him, she doesn't want to give it up either. She then pulls out her student handbook, from which she takes a small, old photograph, renewing her silent vow. Her private moment is abruptly interrupted when another girl with short, dark hair suddenly appears, peeking over her shoulder with a curious expression and asking what she is looking at. This cheerful and energetic new girl introduces herself as Yuka Kurumi-chan and excitedly asks to see the photo too, calling a startled Kurumi by the name Tomo. A new student named Tomomi Fukuda, a girl whose charm is described as a perfectly crafted and adorable plainness, complete with naturally glossy hair and a subtle, no-makeup, makeup style. This immediately catches the eye of Yamamura, who is instantly captivated by her. When Fukuda approaches Yamamura and simply asks to borrow a colored pen, he becomes incredibly flustered and excited, immediately jumping to the conclusion that she must have a crush on him. He is so quickly won over that another student observes the scene and labels Fukuda as an introvert killer, noting how easily Yamamura fell for her charms. The scene then shifts to a private moment between Yuka and Kurumi, whom Yuka calls Tomo, in the school bathroom. After Kurumi drops her notebook, Yuka picks it up and discovers a photo of Fujimori tucked inside. Yuka is completely bewildered, jokingly asking if her friend has taken in a lost person and wondering aloud why she would have a picture of this ordinary-looking Four Eyes. As Kurumi stammers and tries to downplay the situation, Yuka looks through the notebook and is shocked to find it filled with numerous photos of Fujimori, prompting her to declare that this boy is going to be the end of her friend. Despite her shock, the fiercely protective Yuka promises to cooperate for her precious friend's sake. Yuka becomes extremely passionate, telling Kurumi that she doesn't recognize her own worth and that a plain boy like Fujimori simply isn't good enough for her. She insists that Kurumi deserves a high-spec hottie and proceeds to explain her introvert hierarchy with a detailed diagram. According to her chart, at the very top is the high-spec introvert, a desirable type who is wealthy, serious, and aims for a prestigious university, while everyone else is just an insignificant NPC. She firmly places Fujimori in the NPC category and, determined to investigate him further, grabs Kurumi's hand to go see this boy for herself. Kurumi is worried about her friend getting involved, but Yuka reassures her that she just wants to observe him from a distance to make sure he is worthy of her precious friend. A flashback reveals the origins of their deep friendship, showing a time when Yuka was an outcast who would hide in bathroom stalls to escape from her peers. She remembers overhearing popular girls gossiping about another student, Fukuda, and trying to pull Kurumi into their negative conversation. However, Kurumi refused to join in, instead defending the other girl and stating that she saw nothing wrong with someone changing their attitude to be liked by others. This act of kindness and integrity deeply moved Yuka. In the present, Kurumi reflects that Yuka is the very first female friend she has ever had, and for that reason, she feels that Yuka's first boyfriend must be an absolutely perfect person. Returning to their observation, Kurumi and Yuka watch as Fujimori excitedly shows Yamamura his phone, gushing about a collaboration cafe for his favorite character, Sumiton. He passionately laments his lack of funds for new merchandise and declares that he would dedicate all of his wealth to his beloved character. Yuka watches him with a critical eye, while Kurumi asks if she is satisfied with what she has seen. Yuka, however, is not convinced and insists that her friend needs to open her eyes and aim for a true high-spec hottie. At the same time, Fujimori thinks to himself with a sense of resignation that a girl like Kurumi would surely prefer a handsome, high-spec guy over an introvert like him. Deciding to take matters into her own hands, Yuka boldly approaches their table. With a charming smile, Yuka invites both Fujimori and Yamamura to have lunch with her and Kurumi the next day. A smitten Yamamura eagerly accepts on behalf of both of them, leaving Fujimori stunned and Kurumi completely bewildered by her friend's sudden move. Yuka then explains to Kurumi that she felt a spontaneous desire to cheer Fujimori on, but she flashes a dazzlingly determined smile and declares that she will absolutely not hand her precious friend over to someone like him. The chapter closes by revealing Kurumi's cunning inner thoughts. She sees the lunch as a perfect opportunity to publicly humiliate Fujimori in front of Yuka, hoping to finally snap her friend out of this unfortunate crush. A hopeful admirer of Fukuda being gently turned down when he asks her to lunch, as she explains that today is a very important day and she has other plans. Unaware of the true reason for her refusal, he is thrilled when she suggests they could go another time, a moment of naivete that is observed by a distant Kurumi. The important event is revealed to be a group lunch on the school rooftop, where Kurumi and Yuka have joined Fujimori and Yamamura. Kurumi internally declares her mission to protect her precious friend Yuka's happiness at all costs, vowing that she will never allow someone like Fujimori to be with her. As the four of them sit together, Fujimori feels a mix of happiness and confusion, wondering why the two popular girls are suddenly eating with them. Yamamura, ever the showman, smugly whispers a secret to Fujimori. He believes that the new girl, Fukuda, is completely in love with him, a revelation that leaves Fujimori utterly shocked. Breaking the ice, Yuka explains that she doesn't know Fujimori very well and asks Fukuda for her opinion. Fukuda, however, turns the question directly to Fujimori, asking him if there is anything at all that he is good at. When he sheepishly admits there isn't much, Fukuda launches into a rapid-fire interrogation, peppering him with questions about his hobbies, favorite subjects, special skills, grades, and athletic abilities. After his nervous and unimpressive answers, she leans in with a deceptively sweet smile and declares that he has no talents whatsoever. Fukuda then turns her attention to Yuka, loudly pointing out Fujimori's lack of talent and urging her friend to wake up and see that he is not a suitable match. A dejected Fujimori meekly agrees with her assessment, but adds that this is precisely why he admires the confident Kurumi so much, before starting to ramble about his high-level skills in the video game Splatoon. Kurumi quietly asks Yuka if she truly believes having no special talents is a bad thing. When Yuka protests that Kurumi is different because she is smart and athletic, Kurumi counters by saying that she doesn't have anything to be proud of either, leaving Fukuda confused by her defense of the talentless boy. While Fujimori is touched by Kurumi's words, thinking she is a goddess for defending him, Kurumi privately believes that a high-profile partner would be much better for her friend. The awkward atmosphere is broken when Fujimori mentions wanting a milk tea, which prompts Yamamura to offer to get one for Fukuda in an attempt to impress her. As they sort out their drinks, Fujimori excuses himself, claiming he brought the wrong lunchbox and needs to retrieve the correct one, all while a mysterious, shadowy figure watches him from a distance. After he leaves, the admirer from the morning appears on the rooftop and angrily confronts Fukuda, accusing her of eating with another man after rejecting his invitation. As his anger escalates, he throws her water bottle to the ground and yells at her not to mock him. Kurumi bravely steps between them, calmly stating that violence is not the answer. The enraged boy, mistaking Yuka for Fukuda, begins to spew a bizarre love confession at her while insulting Kurumi, calling her an arrogant girl who thinks she is better than everyone else. As Kurumi feels a wave of helplessness, she resolves not to be a bystander and stands up for her friend. The situation takes a dangerous turn when the boy threatens to harm Yuka. Kurumi shields her friend with her own body, telling him to hit her instead. Just as he prepares to act, Fujimori bursts onto the scene, having returned from his errand, and yells at the boy to stop. He bravely intervenes, grabbing the boy's arm to stop him from throwing something, but in the ensuing panic, he accidentally smacks the boy on the head with his pasta-filled lunchbox. The boy, stunned and covered in noodles, bursts into tears, vows to tell his mother, and runs off crying. In the aftermath, a horrified Fujimori apologizes profusely, while a shaken Fukuda decides she is done trying to be nice to everyone. Fujimori explains that he had come back for his lunchbox and only jumped in because he was scared, feeling he made a mess of things and that he truly is useless, just as Fukuda had said. Fukuda, however, notices that he is trembling and unexpectedly scolds him, calling him an idiot for recklessly charging in when he could have been hurt. But then, in a surprising turn, she bows her head and sincerely thanks him. Kurumi suggests they all head back to the classroom, and Fukuda offers an apology to her as well. As they walk back, Kurumi apologizes to Yuka for misjudging the situation, but she notices that Yuka is now gazing at Fujimori with a completely smitten expression, her eyes sparkling with adoration as she thinks about how cute he is. Seeing this, Kurumi immediately launches into a detailed monologue, reciting a long list of facts she has gathered about Fujimori, from his best school subject and exam scores to his special skill of pen spinning and the fact that his mother still buys his clothes. She tells a bewildered Yuka that she is sharing all this because she knows her friend wants to learn more about him. The day concludes with the teacher announcing an upcoming school trip. for which students will be required to work on a report with the person they are sitting next to, conveniently pairing Fujimori and Kurumi together for the exciting new adventure. Showing the impressive midterm exam results of a student named Kurumi Yuka, who has scored exceptionally high marks across all subjects, ranking 6th in her grade. At home, her mother is overjoyed and credits her daughter's success to her own daily prayers, which makes Kurumi feel a bit embarrassed. Before Kurumi leaves for school, her mother advises her to tie her hair up nicely to avoid looking like a gloomy girl. Kurumi complies and ties her long hair into a ponytail, smiling brightly as she agrees with her mother and heads out the door for the day. Later, at what appears to be a public washroom, she lets her hair down again while looking weary, sighing that it feels suffocating and she dislikes how tying it up leaves a mark in her hair. Back in the classroom, she observes her classmates getting excited over an announcement for an upcoming school excursion and silently thinks they are simple-minded for being happy about such a thing. Despite her outward indifference, a close-up reveals that Kurumi is actually blushing with immense joy and excitement about the trip. The teacher then announces that for the excursion next month, students will work on a report in pairs with their deskmates. Her deskmate, a boy with glasses named Fujimori, is internally having a massive celebration, thrilled that he gets to be partners with Kurumi, while Kurumi herself is also secretly screaming with joy. Fujimori nervously approaches her, introducing himself and eagerly offering to work on any topic she chooses for their report. Fujimori continues his internal celebration, thinking about how beautiful Kurumi is and seeing this as a golden opportunity to finally become friends with her. He feels relieved that she doesn't seem to hate him, while Kurumi calmly acknowledges his greeting. As the teacher instructs the class to take out their textbooks, Fujimori, wanting to impress Kurumi, suddenly realizes he's made a terrible mistake. He has accidentally brought the fanbook for an anime or manga called Magi Soar instead of his actual textbook. He despairs, realizing he brought the wrong book in his excitement and now has no way to participate in class or look cool in front of her. Seeing his distress, Kurumi kindly offers to share her textbook with him and moves her desk closer to his so they can both see. Fujimori is flustered by her kindness and her proximity, asking if she's sure it's okay. Now sitting shoulder to shoulder, Fujimori is blushing intensely, completely overwhelmed by how close Kurumi is as they share her math book. He can't help but admire her long eyelashes and sharp nose, while she asks if he can see the page properly. His admiration grows when she answers a teacher's question instantly, making him think she's incredibly cool. Fujimori reflects that Kurumi seems perfect and is on a completely different level than him, making his desire to be her friend feel pretentious. He then notices her textbook is filled with meticulous notes, but among them, he spots a cute, hand-drawn cat doodle with messy writing underneath, revealing a less-than-perfect side to her that surprises him. He asks if she drew it, which causes Kurumi to become flustered and try to erase the drawing, explaining she just scribbled it while she was sleepy. Fujimori quickly tells her not to erase it, reassuring her that a little doodle is fine and admitting he does it too. Fujimori recognizes the drawing and excitedly asks if it's a character named Mainchu, sharing that he had a picture book of the series as a child and even liked the friend character, Wanchu. He catches himself rambling and apologizes, thinking for a moment that he saw her blush, but then dismissing it as his imagination. Kurumi is, in fact, blushing deeply, finding this unexpected side of Fujimori to be very cool and feeling happy to have found something in common with him. Misinterpreting her flushed silence as annoyance, Fujimori apologizes again for making her feel uncomfortable. When he realizes she is genuinely blushing, he is overcome with emotion and spontaneously tells her that he wants to get to know her more. Kurumi reacts with a startled, "Eh," and when Fujimori questions her reaction, she looks at him seriously and coldly states that he doesn't need to know anything about her, suggesting it's better that way. Despite her rejection, Fujimori is internally ecstatic, still thinking she is amazing and kind. His daydream is interrupted when the teacher calls on him for a question, startling him back to reality. After school, Fujimori is walking with a friend, feeling like the happiest man alive after talking so much with Kurumi and looking forward to reading his Magi Soar fanbook at home. He suddenly realizes he left the fanbook at his desk and rushes back to the classroom to retrieve it. Running back, Fujimori thinks about Kurumi's puzzling reaction from earlier, but remains hopeful they can grow closer during the school trip. When he reaches the classroom, he finds it's not empty. Kurumi is there, standing at his desk. He watches as Kurumi picks up his Magi Soar fanbook, examines it, and then uses her phone to search for the item online. She proceeds to purchase the same fanbook for herself, confirming the order on her phone. Kurumi then clutches her hands to her chest with a look of pure bliss, thinking to herself that her collection continues to grow. She reveals in her thoughts that she is happy because she learned more about Fujimori today, and now the textbook that he touched has become another treasured item for her collection. Inside the now empty classroom, Kurumi is shown tenderly handling Fujimori's textbook, her face flushed with euphoria, before carefully placing it into a protective bag. Peeking through the classroom door, Fujimori witnesses this bizarre ritual, his eyes wide with utter shock and disbelief. The story ends with Fujimori standing frozen in the hallway, completely bewildered and horrified by what he has just discovered about Kurumi, in English class where the teacher asks Kurumi to translate a sentence from the textbook. As she responds perfectly, her desk mate Fujimori watches in a state of inner turmoil, convinced that the admirable and cool girl before him is only acting normal while secretly harboring a deep hatred for him. When the teacher calls on him to continue, his anxiety intensifies, and he can only see Kurumi's poised and impressive demeanor, which further fuels his paranoia. Fujimori's mind spirals into a panic as he imagines Kurumi glaring at him with pure disdain, believing she loathes him completely. His fear is rooted in past trauma, shown in a flashback where children made him wear gloves after he touched a textbook during a game of cops and robbers, making him feel ostracized. He concludes that he has misinterpreted all of their recent positive interactions and that her true feelings are disgust. Later, still consumed by his thoughts, Fujimori wonders endlessly about why Kurumi could possibly hate him. His teacher, Yamamura, notices his distress and tries to get his attention. After class, Yamamura finds Fujimori slumped over his desk and asks if he's alright, while Fujimori internally laments that he has messed things up again. Kurumi observes them from her seat with an unreadable expression as Fujimori's mind races through all the possible reasons for her supposed hatred. During a break, Fujimori confides in his friend, expressing his fear that Kurumi must think he's a complete loser and dislikes him because of it. He declares his determination to redeem himself and improve her perception of him during the upcoming school trip, hoping to change her mind. Kurumi, who is nearby, overhears his passionate speech and looks slightly confused by his sudden intensity. A little while later, another girl asks Kurumi to pass her a pen, and in a surprising display of skill, Fujimori intercepts it. He proceeds to show off his one special talent, spinning the pen with incredible speed and flair, a move he dramatically calls the whirlwind of the gods. Kurumi is caught completely off guard, her mouth agape in genuine shock and amazement at his unexpected skill. While Fujimori fantasizes that this trick will make Kurumi see him as cool, his friend has a separate thought bubble dismissing the idea as nonsensical. Unseen by the others, Kurumi is hiding in some nearby bushes, secretly taking photographs of Fujimori with a vintage-style camera. She is blushing profoundly, completely captivated by his display and thinking he is unbelievably cool, desperately wanting to witness his special technique again. Back by the vending machines, Fujimori's friend questions his bizarre plan, but their conversation is interrupted. A sharp-tongued girl with dark hair named Fukuda Tomomi appears, rudely telling the bespectacled duo of Fujimori and his friend to move because they are in her way. She then makes a sarcastic remark to Fujimori, who wonders if she is trying to get his attention, but Fukuda coldly informs him that he is definitely not on the list of people she chooses to smile at. Fukuda demands to know why they are blocking the vending machine, and Fujimori's friend explains that he was giving Fujimori advice on his love life. Fujimori hastily clarifies that it's a misunderstanding about human relations, not love, and admits he was talking about how to improve Kurumi's opinion of him. Fukuda asks what happened, and Fujimori launches into a lengthy, insecure monologue, listing all his flaws like being gloomy and weak and mentioning how Kurumi found out about his Maji Sor fanbook, which he believes makes it normal for her to hate him. He resolves that if he can just fix her perception, he might have a chance at being her friend. Fukuda bluntly tells him his monologues are too loud, while the hidden Kurumi finds his rambling adorable. Fukuda internally muses that it's likely just a misunderstanding, wondering why the sweet Yuka, Kurumi, would hate a boy like Fujimori. At the same time, Fujimori's friend Yamamura gives him some harsh advice, stating that if Kurumi hates the real him, there's no point in pretending to be someone else because the mask will eventually fall off. Yamamura then turns to Fukuda, passionately declaring that he much prefers her real, colder personality to the fake sweet girl she used to pretend to be, insisting that being accepted for who you are is all that matters. His speech leaves Fukuda momentarily speechless. Fukuda then reveals that she spends an hour on her appearance each morning, using natural-looking makeup and only drinking milk at school to cultivate an image of perfect gentleness, all in an effort to attract a specific shy boy she likes. From her hiding place, Kurumi hears this and has a realization. The effort one puts into becoming the person they want to be is also a genuine part of who they are. Yamamura enthusiastically agrees, and Fujimori thanks them both for their advice. Kurumi reflects that while Fujimori wants to get closer, she feels that the current distance between them is perfect and safe, as she is too clumsy to maintain a facade without failing. Inspired, Fujimori stands with newfound determination, declaring that he wants to change for real, not to please someone else, but for his own betterment, to correct his flaws and improve himself. Moved by his sincerity, Fukuda offers to give him advice on the one defect he needs to fix immediately. While Kurumi secretly wishes for him to stay the same, Fujimori nervously asks what his biggest flaw is. With a dramatic point, Fukuda declares that Fujimori's greatest defect is his face. The statement sends a shockwave through Kurumi and Yamamura. Fujimori is horrified, asking if his entire being is a flaw, but Fukuda clarifies she isn't suggesting surgery. Instead, she explains he just needs to be more put together, claiming that with her help, he could look 50% more handsome. Both Fujimori and Yamamura eagerly plead with her to teach them how. As Fukuda begins to explain her plan, Kurumi is shown in the bushes, completely flustered and overcome with excitement at the prospect of seeing a handsome version of Fujimori, setting the stage for his upcoming transformation. Fujimori stared blankly at a men's fashion magazine, completely baffled by the concept of being cool. His classmate Fukuda advises him to find someone he considers cool and observe them to get ideas, but Fujimori is frustrated, admitting he can't break down what makes a person stylish and fears that any attempt to imitate them would only lead to mockery. His thoughts are interrupted back in the classroom when Kurumi notices him staring and asks if he needs something. Suddenly, two of the most stylish students in their class, Aizawa Ryosuke and Ueda Nana, approach his desk, startling him. Aizawa casually calls him Fujita and asks about his interest in fashion, leaving Fujimori stunned that they are even talking to him. Fujimori tries to correct his name but gets flustered as Aizawa sits down and offers to recommend a clothing store. Fujimori awkwardly tries to explain his desire to change his image, and his mumbling voice causes Aizawa and Ueda to lean in closer, which only makes him more uncomfortable. Overwhelmed by the attention, Fujimori feels a wave of embarrassment, thinking this is the exact kind of situation he was afraid of, and he apologizes for getting carried away. From her seat, Kurumi watches with a worried expression, wondering if he is okay. Her concern then shifts to an intense, fixed stare as she notices something about Ueda's skirt. To Fujimori's surprise, Ueda erupts with excitement, declaring that going shopping together sounds incredibly fun and that they should all do it. Aizawa agrees, and they quickly make plans to meet on Sunday afternoon, leaving Fujimori in disbelief that this is actually happening. Aizawa adds one condition, telling Fujimori to come dressed in his favorite outfits so they can understand his personal style. Kurumi overhears their plans and is visibly shocked by the idea of Fujimori going on a shopping trip with a girl, her mind now fixated on discovering what his favorite clothes look like. On the day of the outing, Fujimori arrives wearing his proudest possession, a bold anime t-shirt featuring a large graphic of a female character, which draws stares from people on the street. Ueda is taken aback by how intense his shirt is, while Aizawa remains unfazed, telling Fujita that this is what they're here to work on. As the group walks, Kurumi secretly follows them, hiding in bushes and trees while snapping photos with her phone. She finds Fujimori's nervous demeanor adorable and plans to make a giant poster from her pictures, all while telling herself she must watch over him to ensure the others don't do anything strange. Inside a clothing store, Fujimori feels out of place and admits he only has his entire savings of 5,000 yen. Aizawa is kind and patient, telling him to just point out anything he likes and that they can focus on finding a good shirt first. Aizawa proceeds to show Fujimori several stylish outfits, explaining how different pieces can work together and encouraging him to enjoy the process of trial and error. While Ueda finds the clothes similar, Fujimori diligently takes notes on the advice. After Aizawa steps away for a moment, Ueda begins to gush about how handsome and kind he is, sharing how he once walked her home late at night. Fujimori listens and realizes he had misjudged Aizawa, who he previously thought was scary but is actually a calm, stylish and nice person. Soon, the three are laughing together as they try on clothes, creating a fun and friendly atmosphere. Watching them from afar, Kurumi feels a strange emotion and decides she should leave. She wonders if it's selfish of her to wish that Fujimori wouldn't change. Back in the store, Fujimori tries on a new outfit and is met with praise from Ueda and another shopper, who tell him he looks great. He is moved to tears, saying he will treasure the clothes forever. Just then, Aizawa steps in, stating that now that the clothes are sorted, it's time to deal with his face. Aizawa lifts Fujimori's bangs, revealing his face and commenting that he has well-shaped eyes that are wasted by being hidden. He explains that a better hairstyle and trimmed eyebrows would dramatically change his appearance. After their successful trip, the group prepares to part ways, and Fujimori thanks his new friends profusely. Mustering his courage, he finally corrects them, shyly stating that his name is Fujimori, not Fujita. Aizawa and Ueda accept it without fuss, saying their goodbyes to Fujimori for the first time. That night, feeling grateful and motivated, Fujimori looks up a tutorial for a DIY haircut. With a pair of scissors in hand, he resolves to improve his look in time for the school excursion. The next day at school, however, his classmates are in an uproar over a dangerous and crazy new student. It is revealed to be Fujimori, who has given himself a haircut that makes him look exactly like the character Nobita from Doraemon. Kurumi, Aizawa, and Ueda are all left completely speechless and shocked by his disastrous transformation. The school excursion begins, and Fujimori, sporting his fresh but disastrous Nobita haircut, stands nervously among his classmates. Aizawa and Kurumi look on with blank expressions, while another friend wonders how things ended up this way. On the bus, Fujimori is already in a state of despair over his appearance, but as a teacher reminds everyone to be careful on the mountain trails, he resolves that it's still too early to give up. Once they arrive, Fujimori makes his first attempt to impress Kurumi. He proudly presents himself in the stylish new outfit that Aizawa and Ueda helped him choose, which he is wearing over his gym uniform. His goal is to completely recover the image she has of him, but his plan immediately backfires when a teacher spots him and scolds him for violating the dress code, ordering him to remove the extra layers of clothing. Defeated before he even started, Fujimori feels like a total failure once again. Later, during a rest stop along the hiking path, Fujimori tries a different approach. He sits with Kurumi and suggests they write their report on the local plant life, enthusiastically showing her the multiple plant dictionaries he brought for the occasion. He is thrilled when she agrees, not noticing that she is preoccupied with her phone as he talks. He identifies a pretty flower nearby, sharing facts from his book, but his confidence wavers when Kurumi notes that using a phone to look things up is much faster. He begins to worry that he is boring her, especially when he sees her staring intently at her phone. By the time they reach the campsite, he feels he has made no progress at all. At the camp, the students divide tasks for dinner, with the girls preparing curry and the boys starting the fire. Seizing another opportunity to shine, Fujimori eagerly volunteers to cook the rice, boasting that he researched the proper way to cook it in a camping pot. He daydreams of everyone, especially Kurumi, being amazed by his perfectly cooked rice, which would lead her to admit she had misjudged him. He confidently begins the process, but his daydream quickly turns into a nightmare. He adds far too much water, resulting in a pot full of soupy, inedible rice porridge. His classmates are horrified and disgusted, but just as he starts to panic, Kurumi calmly steps in to save the day. She expertly suggests that they can either evaporate the excess water over a low flame or turn the mistake into a delicious risotto by adding it to the curry with some dried cheese. The other girls praise her resourcefulness, leaving Fujimori feeling even more inadequate. Desperate to redeem himself, Fujimori tries to show off his pen-spinning skills for Kurumi, attempting an ambitious trick with 3 pens at once. The effort ends in chaos as he drops the pens and smashes a plate on the ground. Undeterred, he continues his quest to look capable, pointing out a tree and pretending to look it up in his dictionary, but this only leads to a series of clumsy mishaps. He slips and falls into a stream, loses his glasses, and ends up wandering around dazed, all while Kurumi silently documents his every failure on her phone. Eventually, Fujimori's friends find him, soaked and miserable. They can't help but laugh at his ridiculous state, and Ueda even jokes about posting a photo of him online. At his lowest point, the girls start teasing him, suggesting his sudden effort to change his appearance must be because he has a crush on someone in their class. They playfully guess it must be Shizuka-chan, referencing his Nobita haircut, as Fujimori frantically denies their claims. Pressed for more details, Fujimori clarifies that it's not a crush but deep admiration for someone in his class. He describes her as being from another world, confident and possessing all the qualities that he lacks. His friends quickly deduce that he is talking about Kurumi. Fujimori sighs, admitting that all his attempts to improve her opinion of him have failed because he's too insecure to even speak to her properly. To make him feel better, His friends share their own stories of failure, like messing up makeup or bombing a test, reassuring him that it's normal to struggle with new things and that he will succeed if he keeps trying. Ueda then shares a heartwarming story about how Aizawa won her over by surprising her with a gift he had secretly bought after she casually mentioned liking it. She explains that his thoughtfulness and ability to give a gift so naturally made her fall for him completely. As the teacher calls for everyone to reassemble, Fujimori contemplates this new insight. He remembers Kurumi admiring a flower earlier and realizes he's been so focused on his own performance that he hasn't considered her feelings at all. He understands that to truly connect with her, he needs to think about her, not just himself. He spots the flower again and sees Kurumi resting by a tree nearby. With a new sense of purpose, he carefully reaches out to pick the flower for her, but just as he is about to grasp it, Kurumi's hand darts out and plucks it herself, leaving him utterly stunned. Kurumi and Fujimori sitting exhausted at the bottom of a ditch after a fall, with Kurumi shouting his name in alarm. Fujimori is terrified, exclaiming that he thought he was going to die after they tumbled into the deep trench. Kurumi, looking tired, says they need to hurry and get back to the rest of the group before they get left behind. She asks Fujimori if he can stand, but when she tries to get up herself, a sharp pain shoots through her ankle, causing her to wince. Fujimori realizes she may have sprained her ankle and, despite his own pain, insists that he is fine and that she should go on without him. Kurumi ignores his self-sacrificing gesture and instead asks why he wandered off the path to begin with, prompting a sincere apology from him. In response, Fujimori reveals the reason for his detour by holding out a delicate white flower, the very same type Kurumi had admired earlier, and offers it to her as a gift. Just as he presents it, however, a gust of wind blows through the ditch, and the flower's petals are torn away, scattering into the air. Fujimori is left holding nothing but the bare stem, his intended romantic gesture literally falling apart before his eyes. He looks on in dismay as the last petal drifts to the ground. Utterly defeated, he apologizes to Kurumi, lamenting that the gift is now worthless and that this failure is just like everything else he has attempted all day. He covers his face with his hands, overwhelmed with embarrassment and shame, and begs her to just forget it ever happened. Kurumi quietly tells him that it is not a problem, but her reassurance does little to comfort Fujimori. Tears well up in his eyes as he breaks down, apologizing repeatedly for being so pathetic and strange. In a moment of raw vulnerability, he begs her not to hate him for his constant failures. He confesses through his sobs that he was so worried she already hated him that he tried desperately to change himself, but nothing he did worked. He immediately feels foolish, realizing that once again he has made the situation all about his own feelings. He continues to put himself down, saying he is fully aware of how useless he is and how he only causes trouble for others, concluding that it is only natural for people to hate someone like him. Just as he finishes his sorrowful apology, Kurumi gently reaches out and takes his hand, the one still clutching the broken stem. She looks at him with a soft expression and firmly tells him that she does not hate him. In fact, she explains, she finds it incredible how he remains honest with himself and never gives up, even when he fails or when others make fun of him. With her hair hiding her face, Kurumi then makes a confession of her own. She admits that she has spent her life giving up on things and hiding from the world, something she couldn't bring herself to do when it mattered. It is for this reason, she says, that she finds his relentless spirit so amazing. Leaning in close with a deeply emotional and blushing face, she tells a stunned Fujimori that he is her inspiration and has been for a very long time. The scene then flashes back to a middle school, where a group of girls are discussing a group project. They need a fourth member and consider asking Kurumi to join, mentioning that they used to be friends with her in the past. The flashback shows a younger Kurumi with short hair and bangs covering her face, sitting alone at her desk while reading a book. Her former friends comment on how different and somber she used to be, a stark contrast to the person she is now, ending the chapter on this intriguing glimpse into her past. Kurumi's flashback to her first year of middle school, explaining how she initially made friends with ease simply because she had a pretty face she inherited from her father. This initial acceptance made her happy, and despite being awkward in conversations, she enjoyed sharing her hobbies and felt her interests grow. However, this happiness was short-lived, as within 2 months, she found herself completely isolated during breaks with no one to talk to. In the classroom, she could hear other girls whispering that she wasn't the person they had imagined her to be. Her home life was also strained. Kurumi's mother was very anxious and constantly worried, especially since her father often came home late from work. She would stress over her husband, Kurumi's quiet nature, and her performance on exams. This anxiety led her mother to start frequently visiting a religious group to pray for Kurumi's happiness, which left Kurumi feeling lonely at home with only religious books for company. At school, she overheard classmates labeling her as gloomy because her taste in clothes and books was not trendy, and they noted how rare it was to see her smile. The turning point came when she overheard a group of girls trying to form a group for a class project and realized she had been left out. At that moment, she decided the only solution was to completely change herself. She confidently swept her bangs out of her face and asked to join their group. The girls were surprised by her sudden change in demeanor and complimented her new hairstyle, happily welcoming her into their circle. To maintain these friendships, Kurumi suppressed her true self. She acted more cheerful, smiled more, threw away her favorite books and clothes, and pretended to enjoy things she didn't. The more she hid her real personality, the more popular she became. That winter, she learned her parents were getting a divorce, forcing her to put on a brave face for her distraught mother. It was during this difficult time that she first encountered Fujimori. She saw him at a park, sitting alone on a bench playing a video game. When other boys invited him to play with them, he politely declined, wanting to finish his game. The boys mocked him for being gloomy and walked away, deciding not to bother with him again. At the time, Kurumi looked down on him with a sense of superiority, believing he was a loner because he couldn't adapt and should just give up his games to fit in. Her family situation worsened, with her parents having a loud argument over the phone about money and the divorce while young Kurumi tried to be a comfort to her mother. However, her attempt to be cheerful backfired when she laughed nervously, which scared her mother and resulted in her being slapped across the face. Later, she saw Fujimori again at the park, sitting alone but this time reading a book with a happy and peaceful expression. Watching him find joy in his own world despite being ostracized irritated her. She confronted him, asking why he was always alone and smugly suggesting it was because he had no friends. She continued to mock him, calling him pathetic and admitting she was just taking out her own frustrations on him. Instead of being hurt, Fujimori's face lit up with excitement. He launched into a passionate speech about the manga he was reading, Magical Girl Magica Serena, gushing about its amazing story and characters. Kurumi was stunned by his sudden and unexpected talkativeness. He spoke about his favorite character, a confident hero who he admired deeply. Kurumi pointed out that his obsessive interests were likely the reason he had no friends and asked if he ever considered hiding them to get along with people. Fujimori admitted he had, explaining that he's bad at talking and fears being hated when his passions drive people away. But then he posed a question: isn't it fun to talk about the things you truly love? He concluded that despite what others might say, he wanted to cherish his sincere feelings and hoped to one day find friends who shared his interests. He then proudly showed her his complete collection of keychains from the series. As she watched him speak with such unguarded passion, his eyes shining with joy, Kurumi had a profound realization. She thought that his confident and happy expression was what was truly adorable. In that moment on the park bench, she understood that Fujimori was everything she had wanted to be but was too afraid to become.